Yeah. It's getting set up. You can see messages. Come on. There we go. Nice. Now, go. All right. Let's see. Register. Go. Damn it. Cross fingers. Works. Oh, I'll just push Twitch to it. All right. So where am I right now? So yesterday, created some code. That essentially builds our new shapes. We have these shapes right here, where it's essentially a domain and attribute. Where the same RCFT up here, this T is created right here. So we have domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, have that cross section. That same type is foreign keyed to all these, and this will help us control a lot about the specific domain we're looking at. So I created analysis and component. I created component offline, but online I created analysis group, and people and transaction. And offline I created mapping, queue, and component, and I want to create one more just to kind of demo where we are right now. Is if I find that domain I'm looking for, I want to create a new one called document, which I'm going to explain in just a tiny bit to get this created. Doc, subject ID 36. So we have this little bug where I have to run this twice, but whatever. I think it's just race condition where I'm trying to insert data and build at the wrong time. So I'm going to separate this process to only insert data and then have another process that will only build from the data to keep that separated. So I do have to run this twice though, because the first one fails because of that, and then the second one succeeds. And then I will tell it to rebuild all of my attributes, which I do want to resolve in a sense that every time I call one of these subjects, it's going to attempt to rebuild the name cross section for every domain that I have. And I think it's going to be more performant if we just say, hey, do it on this particular one. So that is what I want to do. Running, because it takes like a minute because it's going through all 12 attributes times 9 domains. And those 12 attributes are CFT. So it's a lot of stuff that it's checking right now, and too much. I want it to focus tripping out right now. Oh well. Hopefully I get the message. But should start seeing docs start showing up. There we go. It's building everything that we need. And I'm going to explain as this is running in the background. Awesome. We know it has errors, bugs I do have to fix. I'll explain kind of what I'm doing with this document. So one of the things that I'm going to take to show how to use this model. So we're still building the model, but we are very close to utilizing it. And I have Polygon. I have to go there. Pin this. All right. So I'm going to use Polygon and also Alpha Vantage. And this is stock data. So there is a lot of stuff associated with stock data that we can, use to make money. So I figured, hey, let me ride that WallstreetBets train and actually do some analysis, some due diligence, deep dives, whatever you assume that it's called, and get more information from it. So one of these pieces of information that Polygon will give me, because Alpha Vantage and Polygon, their free APIs are kind of different on how many requests you can have, and I'm not interested in spending $50 a month to do something, at the very beginning. Screw that. I'll make do with the free that I have, and we'll make the system work for us. But this first one that I was looking at is the tickers, and this is the document that is being returned. So it's what currency, whether it's active, what type of stock is it, common stocks, and they even, thinking realm class family type, they even have an API here that will give us ticker types. So we can fill some data with this. Would be pretty nice, but we have an array of pieces of information. So part of the mapping, part of the document, the analysis and the component is that we are going to be defining components in a document. So it'll almost look like the same data is here, but this is pretty different. This is defining something that already exists, like this PDF document, this JSON document, and these are going to be the components of that document. So we'll create a relationship, and these will have parent-child relationships inside of them. And on top of that, we also have mapping. And these three subjects should allow us to go from document to mapping, or document component to mapping to something for ETL. And then we should be able to take the reverse course, have our data here, and take our data, go to mapping, and create the documents associated with it. So this is one of the outputs I have from Polygon. It's the ticker list. Is this response object where it's an array of tickers with different information. And this is the code that I wrote for it. This stuff is just a where-in right now. And I mark it under test just to make sure, hey, does this all work? So this is going to take a JSON object and iterate through. Check to see if it was an array, which we'll actually get from the component flag. And it's going to build the path respectively, because in 2019 we can finally use parameters in the path. In 2017 we can't, I believe, or it's 2016 we can't, and 2017 forward we can. I do forget where the cutoff is, but in one of the versions you have to specifically specify your path and do some SPXecute SQL, but in a later version you can get rid of all that and have something very clean, like this. So I'm actually I'm adding a new piece of JSON to the original object to tell me where I am, so I can pull it at the top. And this is all the code. Not realize that my number. There we go. You know, generously spaced, just an iteration for when we're inside of an array, because if this current item is an array, we're going to iterate to modify the path respectively. But when I run this, it goes through and it says, hey, I found tickers. We're going to act on recursion because it's going to call itself and keep going down. And you can see it start getting different pieces, different identifiers for our group identifiers, the biggie and SIC codes. But we'll go through all of the data that I have. So I have this very generic decompiler for a JSON document, which will allow me to take this specific value, figure out what component I'm associated with it, or is associated with where I'm at, and send that value to a mapping protocol. Now, this mapping protocol will call something like this, where if we need to create a new realm class family type of something, that mapping structure is going to tell us, hey, send this data forward. So if it doesn't exist, it'll create it and then fetch the ID and then give it back to us. If it does exist, it'll grab the ID and insert it where it needs to go. And we'll be able to tell it where it is. So we'll be able to say, hey, this is just a realm, or this is a class, etc. This is an actual intersection between a domain and an attribute, so it needs to go into the identifier section. We'll be able to have all that control. So in order to start doing that and get this also clean and an elegant solution to process this data, we're going to have to build the rest of our system. So we do want to build procedures like this for everything that we have. Before that, we want to build views because I have them here. But on all of our newer products or all of our newer subjects, we do not have them. So that is what I'm going to be working on today, is getting these views built, set up. So now, them, yeah. Oh, and yeah, this is how we'll be fetching the data. This is from Alpha Vantage, where the JSON stuff sends like this weird one dot open, and it's super fast. It only takes a couple seconds, but unfortunately, the CSV version takes longer, but yeah, darn it. The CSV version takes longer, but it is a better output. It doesn't have all those messed up things in it. Oh, that is why. That is messed up. That right here. Trying to set it to the response and it's going to be messed up. So there we go. So now when we look at it through the CSV, we don't have that one dot open, that two dot hide, etc. It's a lot more consumable, and that is, even though it takes longer, that's what we're going to use because the format, the return format is different. So it's kind of interacts with component and all that stuff, and we'll be able to actually store these paths Pretty good, I guess. There's a little lag for spinning up the execute external scripts, but for the most part, you think of performance of how, 3 pieces of performance. How fast does it run? How easily is it to expand? And how easily is it to maintain? I think you think of a third party or a middle tier application as being a lot more difficult to maintain versus we store all these links in a particular structure, then this is all the Python we need to pull a key, call a URL, create the URL in a specific way, and get a JSON output. So definitely there's probably 1 or 2 seconds spin up time for actually calling the execute external script. But, automation through SQL is a little quicker than trying to and manage crazy libraries. But yeah, that's just from my experience. I have to catch up and figure out where I am. Be an interface. I have this. Let me look up and figure out what. Is it the marketplace? Is that what Data Factory is now? Oh. So if you want to use some sort of pipe, I mean, yeah, I just looked that up. It's like, what about SSIS? What about any sort of ORM that builds your things for you? It's like, well, if you don't have the talent or skill at your company to do something like this to make a more flexible solution, then you're stuck with whatever you pay for, I guess. So I've never used Data Factory, and I would be trying to test its limits. And as soon as I said or found something that, hey, you can't do this, then I would be like, what's not a solution for us? Because once you find something, a piece about an application that says you can't do this, you no longer have this ability to progress the way that you need to progress. You are stuck within their bounds. So same with SSIS is like these crazy packages. Luckily, you can shift packages into Azure, so that's pretty cool. But even using Azure itself, is like you have to create these crazy linked or extended queries just to talk to a different database, and it's like, what are you guys doing, right? So Azure is quick, but there's still a long way to go before I'm like, yeah, that's like a good solution. ETL services in general, I mean, it's a service. If you can't do it yourself, you're gonna have to grab a service. Point. So I'm not drawing right now. Select set. I need to pull a couple set class, set realm, so relationship. Group and data points, data set ID is in these. To build these views, I'm trying to compile a list of the stock data I'm pulling from Polygon and AlphaVantage. So those are the two that I have right now. Polygon IO is a free API. I believe it's 5 per minute, and AlphaVantage is a free API. It's 5 per minute, but max 500 per day. So I think I can use combine the two to create a decent, 10 per minute and get a job running to do what I need it to do, because Polygon has market news, which is going to help because I have Pro installed. So I'm also going to be pulling from Reddit, scraping Reddit. We'll be scraping different news organizations, but one of these has news, and it's pretty cool. I think it's Polygon. So we can do some deconstruction on the summary. Store all this information, blah, 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 posts, whatever. So we're going to actually get finance data. At the beginning, these two are free, so I'm going to use Polygon and AlphaVantage to pull my stock data, and then I will be creating more pipes to pull from different news sources and subreddits, Twitter, etc. And it's going to be pure SQL, because like I was showing, I can use Python within SQL. I can store my keys, which means I can store my auth tokens. I can do OAuth 2, anything I need, and create a bot. I have videos on my YouTube channel where I've created a Reddit bot, but I didn't really have a purpose until I got this idea to use my database to make me money. All right. And right now I'm just getting some information together so I can start building views for everything in my system, and I want to see how I have this laid out and create some notes, because I have to create a function that will convert the current name, since all of my tables have the same names, string description, blah, blah, blah. They're all the same except for the primary key and the cleansing, because the system cleans itself. Yep. I have to convert this stuff into something that humans will have an easy time reading, which would be a system unique name, which kind of looks like this. So we have this pattern, because this entire system is a pattern. That's all really matters. Say if class, no, realm bit, and right -3 plus flag. Order by the family key name. So I want to know how far I have to go. System generated columns here. all have SYS in front of them. Don't look like I have anything else in the system integer that does not begin with SYS. Excellent. If class entity and family system, then right -6. Also, yeah, I do this. I think where we are, so temp 2, if this works, you are putting out some amazing content for free, because I'm dual streaming right now to Twitch and YouTube. So I think where I am right now is there are some crazy basic ideas in our industry right now, in the data architecture industry, where it's 3NF and it's like this. There's no rules. There's no, how do you actually build a table? What is domain key normal form? How do you create a complete system, separate it? Why in my system do all of my tables have basically the same columns and nothing else? So this analysis flag table, we can look at all these columns and I can say, all right, this analysis and this analysis, everything else is going to be the same in the next flag table that I do for our 2 keys, because this is a self-cleaning system. If I go to my group table, see exactly the same thing, the group tenant and the group cleaning, all these other columns look the same except for the flag table is missing that one additional column because it's this shared attribute. All of my type tables look the same. All of my realm tables look the same. And it's this hyper vertical system that it's a data-driven database system. So this is my vertical operational data store. And I'll have, total, I have about 64 databases. I only have 3 up. I have one that converts it to a very flat structure, but it's still extremely abstract because there's no like strict rules on where it lands. It's just groups of columns with sequences. So 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 40. So each table's got 500 columns, but there's a header, and then every time it hits group 40, it says, oh, I need to create a new table, and it starts filling out more horizontal data for warehouses and such like that. So it's not really, this is pretty crazy stuff, especially making it useful in analyzing stocks, things like that. So the content out for free isn't, I'm not saying, oh, here's some free content. It's like, hey, I need people in my industry to think about things differently, because you go to the next spot and you're like, okay, why did you do it this way? Oh, I can see why you're stuck in a corner. I can see why you have to buy Snowflake and all these other third-party applications, because your model is literally crap. So if you can get a model that doesn't put you in the corner, the easiest instance I can say is put Pablo Picasso's full name. Pablo Picasso, full name. Store this in your data structure. And if you can't, then you need to rethink your model. But for here, not only can we store each individual piece by a 4-degree classification like this, government issued, name, first name, or name first, whatever, name full, whatever we want to specify it as multiple times, we can rip apart that name, store the pieces, store the full name, store nicknames, Twitter handles, use Reddit handles, whatever. So yeah, the phenomenal system that I hope more people do, because my system built all these tables for me, as you see in my previous stream. All right. Also, if right -6 plus ID equals data set name plus ID. Shorthand is for me where I say when I'm building something, I'm going to be essentially attaching the subject right here, database realm, in front of it. So database name, database realm name instead of str name. But I don't want database realm ID. So particular code is going to split that down. Have underscores. Remove underscore for comparison. I think the rest is -3. Pin this. Not blind. Oh. All right. So I built this system many different ways, but this particular way that I'm doing is all of my inputs and outputs for my procedures will be the same, and I took some stuff from the old system so I can get started faster because it is a long process. You call point inc RCFT, so data point transform name for the data point into a view. All of my functions and all my procedures will have 3 parameters total. That is the goal. Have group ID tenant because the tenant is who owns the system. So I don't need to spin this up per client. I can lease space in my tables, which SAAS track. JSON payload. We're going to use JSON as our primary communications between everything. And a return is JSON. JSON or whatever. Works up here too. Inputs, outputs. That's all we're going to do. So in case I'm like, oh crap, I really need to add a parameter. Well, I don't have to worry about what procedure calls what. I can just add this parameter to my payload and be done with it. JSON response is will return the response. So that is basically, this right here is what all of our functions should look like. It is not true as of right now, so we have to build these and then replace some code, but it's okay. I want my rules so we can test it. So we'll say for today, we're snowed in, so my wife doesn't care that I'm doing this on Valentine's Day. Description, payload, what are we looking for? We're looking for a point name. And just in case, like I was talking about, we'll do a dataset ID. Do data point type ID also. So this will be the payload that we're expecting. And just in case, I think I might need dataset ID for this or the data point type ID, but possibly not. So at the class, I have a realm class fam, so I might just class family type. So let's do data point, key name, realm, family, and I should set up bits. Faster. Sweet. I will need this stuff. Super freaking cold, so I'm still trying to warm up. My typing is pretty crap. Keep hitting that insert button. Data point type ID. Integer. And this is what I'm talking about right now, is I want this data point type ID to be the value from the incoming payload. And I know from my comments it will be under data point type ID. So I can do it this way. I can do a with statement. The with might be better. Probably need 3. Angry. Oh, I know why you're angry. Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. The function and yelling at me. Ah, crap. That's what Control Tab does. Wait. All right, so instead of doing the JSON value, I'm just going to open it and pull the data I need from that top level to get this 3 pieces of information. It's going to do nothing up here because I'm not programming that right. There we go. Pull the tree information for my parameters, and then I'll be able to act on my rules. I actually want a return point, call it data point name modified, and format this stuff. Go. Say the point name modify our data name. If realm, bring this down. Name is bit. Then that the name is right. Modified name length. Modified name is 3. Which would be FLG and add flag to it. I use concat a lot because when you use a plus sign, it messes with memory. So you shouldn't use a plus sign. Do I need anything else? If class key name is int and client family name system. Same thing. For W6 with no concat. And finally, press this right 3. Sweet. Now I'm going to get some information. The data set. And I will want the data set name. I need to trim off the front 6. And I have to say if concat dataset name equals point name modified or this kind of We leave it the same. Else. JSON in SQL is a bit finicky, so we always have to initialize our blank object so we can modify our blank object, and we're going to send back a data point name, and that value is going to be a modified version of that name. Wait. So I should be able to come over here. I'm looking for data point type ID, the data point name. Do it this way. I would never use a function like this. I don't like to like cursors because you have way more control, but this is an easy way to verify if we have done everything correctly. I have a JSON payload. No, I don't. I'll just this way. Right, you'll let me do it, right? It's my tenant and it's wait. Data point. I guess I'll do this. Data set ID is data point. Data set ID. Ooh, that's a good question that I just asked myself. I don't think that this is correct because I just realized it might not create. Oh no, actually, mind. ID. It. It. Data point name. Wait, and I could draw earlier on this thing, right? This is the return I'm getting. Doesn't look like this worked the way I wanted to. Weird, because it should have been in the else. Oh. Duh. Literally an else. Do it. This is why I don't like, this is why I like doing this in cursors, not something like this. Because it is crazy hard to, this is the JSON that I want, and then I want the location of the data point name. And now I'm just kind of looking for oddities. Oh, no, I have a element here. System relationship I really wanted to see to make sure that it did this right. Cleanse to ID, I want to make sure that it does that right, where it should be. No, this isn't correct. Don't want that duplicate. So my char index probably needs a -1 on it. Set realm group, that's correct. This doubling's incorrect. Data set realm cleaning flag, that is correct. System relationship type ID, that is correct. So it only looks like to do this, I think. Oh, nice. This. If exists flag. Boom. That worked. That was what I wanted. Instead of group event ID cleanse to, it just says group event ID cleanse to. So it's looking like that is exactly what we need for our name transformation. Send it a payload, get back something. That's the cool part is we can get back error messages if we want. So now it is to defining views. To define that definition. That done. Might want to borrow some. Functional view tree. I want to see object construction. Set. Yeah, and if you're new looking at this stuff, I have this table actually dictating what default goes to what, how the foreign keys. So like when I spin up a table, when I say, hey, procedure, create my table for me, it's like, okay, sure, I'll make sure to put these indexes that are named, like this because we all work in patterns. They exist. And if the column doesn't exist, it's just basically, hey, where the type IDs are in this thing. Also my default constraints, these should be not null and be a null or zeros for some of these inserted things. But yes, I have my system building all of these things for me when I hit a button because who wants to do that and who has time to remember to do that? Yeah. But I want to create a new object construction family, and where's my class ID? 2. New families under class ID 2. Got it. We're going to do that. So instead of trying to create some crazy code, we use data. I actually want to create some data sets. Because a view is a data set, a CSV is a data set, set up data. And I also want to create triggers. Five and 6, definition type. So for 5, we're going to have object creation dataset view. We're going to create some views. Okay. These are indexes. Definition, sense, view, construction per dataset. And we want to put triggers on views. So, boom, views. Oh, no. Represents a trigger construction per view. Boom. And no, this is not duplicate data because of how a taxonomy works. Definition 25 and 26. We need a base view. Helps control what columns are in a base view. Actually, our base view is going to be the same because it's just the relation, so that doesn't exist. It's a select view. What can you select? Normally it's all the columns, but just in case you don't want that, you don't have to. And update view, same thing. There are a lot of columns that you do not want to be updated. Delete view, almost the same thing. There will only be 2 columns in a delete view. You can't where like name or name like whatever. You have to know the tenant and key. Finally, third view. It's because when you insert a record, it will not have security. It can't have security. It doesn't exist in the system. So there are a lot of things that you can turn off when you insert because it makes sense to. You don't have to worry about filling in every single one of these 20 columns. Oddly enough, we're going to do the same thing. Change this, see if it lets me. Yep. Not only do we have these views, we want to make sure that on these views we have a trigger. Oh crap. On these views we have a trigger that prevent you from doing the other actions. What's the point of naming a view an update view if you can delete on it? Well, The point is to create a trigger that says after these prohibited actions, raise an error. So we control the flow of data, make it green proof. Sweet. So a base view essentially going to be same. I'm going to worry about relating these in a moment. I actually want to get some, I want to get some process for these. So all my code belongs in one database. Should not find procedures in any other database. So we want a creation subject coming. So we can just this set use up there. Set ID and the appropriate overloaded. This say we need a dataset ID, 100%. We can take care of the rest of the information in this procedure, looking up where it belongs, what type it is, most basic set ID. From there, we're going to different procedures. So this first one is base. Base view is just a translation. And then if we create other views, tree view, etc., it should be able to handle this. Considered functional, so just standard. Standard. Functional are a bit different. That is okay. All right. Oh, darn it. There we go. Stepped. So this one should really just that. Boom. All that should do. Then our first base view will be our actual code. Try to watch my stuff in case restream stuff messes up, but it doesn't look like I can actually stream. Oh well. Okay. Damn. Uh, Dynamic parameters. I think one of the things, because my hard drive crashed. I lost some snippets because saved it. I probably have a link in my description that says you can buy this tool and I get commission. I do get commission on it. They're not paying me to advertise it, but I asked to be an affiliate and they said okay. Whether it's SQL prompt from Redgate or SQL complete from DevArt, you need to get okay. You need to get a snippet manager because they are freaking so when it comes to creating code. So buy one of those, treat yourself, because hell yeah, they're only a couple $100 depending on when it is. But it's the shit. Okay. What am I doing here? Let's initialize variable. So my base is basically going to be a double statement, which is exact if exists. Token base. That should be it. I try to use this techniques where we're doing like this nested dynamic SQL, and it's because I forget which ones allow you to do this and which ones yell at you for doing this, which pain in my ass. So I forgot if view was like, hey, you create view has to be first in its batch, or if it's just, so I don't remember, but some do, some don't, and it's pretty infuriating. So I kind of take into this pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to get a dataset ID. So that means just looking at the tokens, I need, I'm going to call this SQL because we're building it for SQL. We need a column list. My dynamic SQL is in varchar max, so it's okay. It looks like we need a database name. But in order to get the database name, we need the ID. And in order to get the ID, we need the dataset ID, the dataset name. So actually, how about we do this? For consistent. Should be. Okay, so I select my base. I say, give me my set ID payload at the dataset ID location. I do want to create a preventative measure. You have to be actual table. I have spots for views and files, but if we're getting a data set, you have to be in actual table. I make sure that we test for that. Not that bad. Get my dataset ID. I need my dataset name. Anyways, my dataset type ID from dataset type ID. Yeah, this is, I use in, I could use exist. Oh, it's if it exists. Figure out what template, because abstract? Oh no. Can't be a template creating. Crap, I lost it. Oh, that's type. class. Don't want to be creating views for templates. Find. Oh, a view. Okay, that's totally fine. Work. And this would be our data point cursor. Local. Nope, cursor. Local. Board for. I can't do that. So I have to do static. Forward only. Read only. Here, name, type ID, that ID. I have to use static forward only, read only, because not only do we want to, so we're not, then I need about for I think this is okay. So usually I like to separate my code execution with my data execution. So I'm trying to do code right now, and that's not what I want to do. I think it's going to be easier if I don't do this at all. And I'll explain why real quick is because what if none of this mattered? Instead of I this way, it's the view name, whatever underscore base or underscore insert or underscore. So this would actually be a procedure that could take anything and just create a view. As long as the data is defined, it could create a view. It could create a view. So I'm going to remove the SQL side from this. I will build a SQL specific version. For now, we're going to make sure our data exists. Dum-de-dum. going to create the base from a that's in. Think how, if I can reuse this. If I can reuse this. So what's going on in my head right now is like, all right, if I send it a data set ID, I'm gonna grab this information, convert it specifically for this base view, which is okay. But if I think about it from another perspective, I think it's the definition view that's going to need a source and a destination. Because if I'm creating this view for select view, it's going to come from the base. And that'll help me materialize and add indexes to views. But if I want to create a tree view, I have multiple bases, left joins, etc. So it's going to have to be a little bit more complicated. But those are functional views, so I can create a definition standard, a definition functional, where definition functional requires an array of source data sets. A base view is going to remain just like this. It's really, I have something that must exist, something that will always exist one particular way, always exist with variance, and a third one will be strictly data driven. And we could make them all strictly data driven, but it really requires an order of creation. The base is not created, then the rest cannot be created. That is how that goes. That is the reason why this code needs to be separated. It is order dependent. Alrighty. So let's clear out fonts. Let's get payload, secondary payload. Got it. Initialize that. Okay. So that should be enough to build the view, I believe. Oh, this can't be a definition. Save the cut. Open up one of these. Show what have these old and new. So code I've written can do this, but I really do need the old, and I do need to make this. Darn it. Whatever. This way, just how it needs to be done. Because I will be going through the source dataset ID that is not a template, but it is a table. I will get str name. I will send it forward. I will get whatever str name back. So I will need basically print data point name as add data point name modified. See if this works. Can now I will this. Hard one. One. Oh, no, realm. Boom. What are you doing there? Turn. That's an important thing. Also, one. Sequence matters to me. Primary key, owner, taxonomy, table identifier, description records, internal order, cleaning, flags. Alrighty, so it should be if this exists, see if dataset exists. As a destination, ID. Destination. Okay. Destination. Where is set name is cat our set name base. This is null. Talking about these views. Alrighty, so this is gonna be a little bit tricky, but that is okay. Bam, 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 bam. These name for sure. That one of these, and we're going to borrow. Sweet. Just formatted it. Now I'm staggered again. one. This is fun. Data set. View. Is that realm key name? Wow. No, that's wrong. Another pattern I work with a lot is basically folding data over, where you have essentially taking a copy of something or looking at where it originates from. So if the source database or the source data set that I'm building a view on top of is deactivated, not trusted, or whatever combination, we want to pull that information first. We can see if it actually exists. I mean, we're going to pull it since we're here anyways. And this is part of the developer index, so it's one of those things. We can do a covering index. This is pretty interesting. I haven't used the pattern before, but we're going to try it to see if it works. I also need to verify that it is there because I'm not adding new things. This code, I am just retrieving because I'll get a failure if this fails. So thing is I have a view, or I have a table that exists in the database. I'm creating a view that will exist in the same database. However, it'll be and actually I'm going to rename that because that's a little confusing. It'll exist in the same database, but it'll be a different realm class family type because it's going to be, instead of a table taxonomy realm base or whatever, it's going to be a view, same thing. So this is where that flip is, where we're just changing a realm to get a completely different classification, but we're reusing the same data from the previous one, so I just have to verify that exists. Description is coming forward. Name is obviously coming forward. Don't need this to. Don't need source. They'll be different, but that's fine. Database ID. Oh, right here. Description will be the same. Key name will be the same. So if the key name is, better to explain that. So I got to make sure I have these in here, and I do not. Well, I guess I kind of do have these set up. Perfect. I see how I'm going to do that. It's perfect. This will be what view I'm looking at. So if I say, hey, I'm looking at the standard base table for this realm class family type, my key name would be, I don't know, database, because it's the database, TBL ref database, and this is TBL ref database type. I flip this around and say, hey, I'm looking for the view, it's the base for the taxonomy family of database. It will give me a different data set. So I can borrow the key name, but still have a unique key name based on what we're looking for. But this unassigned right here, this doesn't tell me if it's a base view or not. Under view, get some more records. Should be super. First, we got to figure out the realm D. Looking for unassigned on 2. Boom. My favorite ever. One of my favorite tools. Base. Select, insert, update, delete. Damn it. Oh crap. Ten. Blah. That much. This I did, but this I don't. Split. Five copies. Three. Five. Because two. And it. Base attribute. By 1, 2. View. Base. Domain. Class family type. Taxonomy. Delete. Insert. Table. Database type. Table. Standard. Taxonomy type or database. Well, I want the view insert taxonomy type database. Boom. Get. Boom. Eat. So that means my flip here actually be that would be my base. Even though it's going to be the same up there, I can just do it like this. So, oh no, that's not right. Darn it. Because this is one record. This will actually has to change. So view base, whatever it was, and then I'll get my data back. So because of the new definitions I created, when I do the definition one, all I have to do is pass in the definition key name here. Two tables converge into one new product, one new. So view delete, because it's the delete definition of the base domain. That should work just fine. key name the same, the specific data set number, source, this, it is next value. Can't do. Let's do it anyways. Flag equals next value from next value 4. Sequence. Sequence is an identity on the database level. Always go up. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what you're looking for if you want to figure out what this is. Boom. Okay. I need to create a new base view. Come in. Build the new base view name. Take the old name. Associate it with it. So this was a group. That means the as it did group, it should be view base domain. Yeah. That's what we wanted. Alrighty. Time is it? I'm going to get some food. It is about my food time. I will be back in a couple hours or so, and I will continue streaming to get these views out of the way and start getting into this data pipeline stuff. It takes a while to get into this, but I know where I am right now. I just have to insert this data in and then replace some tokens, because we'll build this column list and execute this, and we'll start creating all of our base views. Go into the tedious process of defining definitions of views, what data point type ID should be in what view. But it'll be fun, because then stonks. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in a few hours. Have a good one.